Has anybody been watching most of the stuff that's been streaming on TV on Black History Month?
I haven't. I've been watching that much TV lately.
I bet you haven't. There's some good ones on. You can catch them or you can record them. PBS History Channel, really, really good ones.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Some of them are tough. I'm watching Tuskegee Airmen now, narrated by Robin Roberts.
Oh, nice.
Robin Roberts. Yeah, that one's a really good one.
I'd expect that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
We are down. Oh, no, we're not. There it is. I'm ready when you are. Okay.
Is that Tim George? Whoa.
He looks like Grizzly Adams, doesn't he?
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Okay. Call the February 11th regular Des Moines City Council meeting to order. And will Deputy Mayor Mahoney please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the republic for which it stands.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was fast.
That was. Thank you. And if we could let the record show that all council members are present. That takes us forward to correspondence from the public. Are there any correspondence or written public comment?
Yes, Mayor, we received the following written public comments. Rick Michael, Infoblock, Allie Tanner, Sound Transit Project, Sandra Mock, withholding information from council, Wesley Parch, dangerous intersection at 250th and 16th Avenue, Alina Rogers, blocking questions and more, and Chuck Reese, historic Masonic home, and no one has signed up to speak with public comment.
You have an echo, Bonnie.
I know every week. Sorry.
Oh,
We're working to manage it.
okay.
Thank you, though. Appreciate it. Okay. Council, every year, we honor our fallen officer, Stephen J. Underwood, who was killed in the line of duty on March 17, 2001. Since his death, Des Moines Dollars for Scholars has awarded a scholarship in his honor to area youth interested in law enforcement. And this has happened every year. The primary source of funds has been through payroll staff deductions throughout the years. And I know that a few council members have also donated to this fund and still continue to do so. As employees retire, the amount that's being collected annually dwindles, and it has dwindled significantly. Yeah, last year, I made the motion to fund the scholarship through the council's Hearts and Minds Fund and to continue to visit this contribution on an annual basis. The current balance in the Hearts and Minds Fund is $4,148. And I would, again, like to ask the council if they would like to fund another $1,000 scholarship to the Stephen J. Underwood Memorial Fund. So if I see Councilmember Nutting.
Yeah, I absolutely would support that.
I second.
Okay, well, bottom line is, if the council's in favor of contributing from the Hearts and Mind Fund, why don't you let me raise your hand? And we're talking $1,000 for year 20. It's the 2020-21 school year, the current year. So raise your hand if you're in favor of doing this.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
What is the current balance of the Hearts and Minds Fund?
It's $4,148.93.
Thank you.
Okay, so please hold your hand up if you're in favor of the $1,000 contribution from our Hearts and Minds Fund. I see Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Banks, myself, and Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Okay, so we have approved a release of $1,000 to the from the Hearts and Minds Fund to the Stephen J. Underwood Memorial Fund. And I'd also like to announce that our Des Moines Police Guild President, Justin Kripe, has informed me that the Police Guild has also pledged their support in funding $1,000 scholarship on an ongoing basis, additionally in memory of Officer Underwood. So this will mark 20 years that Steve has been gone. There will be a proclamation coming forward to council at the March 4th meeting to honor Steve. Stay tuned for that, but I want to thank everybody for their support on that particular item. And with that, that takes us forward to the administration report.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know, 10 days ago, I had one item. Now I've got 8, so bear with me. But they're all informative and important. The first thing I'd like to do is ask Beth Ann Rowe, our finance director, to introduce our newest, or our new assistant, not newest, we don't go through them quickly, our new assistant director of finance.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'd like to introduce Jeff Friend as our Deputy Finance Director. We're very lucky to get him. He previously worked at the city of Tukwila. So his experience and professional knowledge is going to be a very good fit for our team. So we welcome him. And I don't know if Jeff, if you want to say a couple words.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I really appreciate the welcome I've gotten at the city.
Welcome aboard.
Great, thank you. Couple of things regarding the marina. There's ongoing Des Moines Marina Association meetings. Scott usually attends those. Others as necessary. I wanted to say that last week we had Dan, myself, and Scott had a meeting with Ken Rogers, Todd Powell, and Bill Linscott to talk with them about kind of where we are, what our plans are for moving forward. The final kind of marina recommendations should be coming out sometime soon. And so we just started exploring strategically what are some of the options that are available. We wanted them on board. We will engage the public in this process as it's appropriate relative to decision making. And they were the ones actually who had got us in touch with Mark Bunzel originally, who is our marina consultant, redeveloped consultant on the water side. And so I just want to keep council apprised of those efforts to engage the boaters in what we're doing. Then I also want to say, in regard to Black History Month, I was very pleased and grateful to have collaborated with Councilmember Bangs and our Human Resources Director, Adrian Johnson, in developing a proclamation. And you know, I think it speaks to what we care about in this regard and sensitivity. There'll be more discussions about some of the diversity activities we've been undertaking in our Parks Department, but I just wanted to say I was proud to be a part of that effort. On Tuesday, I testified at the Port of Seattle in support of their acquisition of 14 acres of right-of-way, 509 right-of-way from WSDOT. And this will allow for a 20-acre expansion of the business park to the west, up on that plateau. And I think it's important. The city of Des Moines played a critical role in this. And it's worth understanding that originally that 509 right-of-way, which would no longer be used, so it was fallow and available for a use, that was the way it would work is that the money from a right-of-way acquisition would have gone back to WSDOT General Fund. And the Gateway folks who control the 509 right-of-way at this point were not happy to hear that they would lose the value of that asset. So we worked diligently with the Port of Seattle in Olympia to encourage WSDOT to change their administrative policy that would allow the value of that right-of-way to go back into the Gateway Fund. And WSDOT made the change. I remember having some very direct conversations with WSDOT and the project manager with the port there, talking about this is a local investment for us. This is not something we're going to play politics with relative to, that it's not being done because it doesn't advantage one party or another. It advantages us, and we need this developed. And they were very, WSDOT was very supportive in the end. And that allowed the port to acquire this property, most of which it will be used for environmental mitigation. There's a small portion that's commercial. It ends up being a development project of approximately 23 acres, right to the west of the tree line where the detention ponds are. And of those 23 acres, approximately 9 will be used for development activities. So the process is that the port will now issue an RFP looking for a developer and a development. At the point at which that is selected, there will be a SEPA review, there will be community input, there will be opportunities for the public to comment on that development. But I want to say one other thing, that the port, in their efforts to move forward, also the timing of our 216th Gateway improvements did not coincide with the development cycle that the port was hoping to accomplish. And so what they were able to do, and I have to, outstanding shout out to Dan for his efforts. The port put forward $1.5 million to assist in the 216th improvements, which were overall in the neighborhood of about 4.5 or something like that. So they paid at least a third of that prior to any development happening on that property. So just wanted to let council know a little more about that. I want to also ask for an update. We haven't talked a lot about COVID recently in a comprehensive manner, but I asked Shannon tonight to do a presentation to council on COVID, our emergency operations, some of the challenges that are happening as we moved into this vaccine cycle, and also into phase 2. So with that, and Shannon has been doing an absolutely incredible job supporting this city in its emergency operations activities. So Shannon, please.
Thank you, City Manager Matthias. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Shannon Kirchberg, your Emergency Manager for the City of Des Moines. I'm here tonight to give you an update on COVID-19 and the city's efforts in battling the ongoing pandemic. These are the COVID statistics as of this morning's update. These numbers are updated on the Seattle-King County Public Health site every afternoon at approximately 2:30, pending reporting. The United States is sitting at just under 28,000, with Washington State at 327. King County sneaking up on the 80,000 mark. Des Moines with the number of infections at about 1,800. That was a question earlier today. So there's that number. I do want to emphasize that case numbers have been dropping dramatically throughout the past couple of weeks, and I have a couple graphs to show you on that. Deaths are also dropping nationwide, which is wonderful. Vaccines are not moving quite as fast as we would like, but with people following proper protection activities, we are decreasing. Des Moines has lost a total of 20 residents. One thing to note here is tests in all of King County. We're sitting at almost 900,000. We average about 2,700 a day. Yesterday, we did about 4,167.
So Shannon, I just wanted to say, you said 27,000. It was 27 million, right?
Oh, yes, 27 million. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
This is the graph. So on the Seattle King County Public Health site, they also put some visuals together. So these are the decreased numbers that I was referring to in the last slide. You can see the very sharp decline in all of these graphs, with the exception of admission dates. But it is a flattening line. It was on the decline, but we've been flattening out in the hospitalized cases. But as you can see here, they are dropping, and our counts and percentages are also declining. This is a great snapshot that you can get also on the same site. These are the vaccination statistics. Please keep in mind when you're looking at this slide, the numbers will consistently be behind by an average of 10 days. So as of the 31st of January, you can see that Washington State has received just over 1.1 million vaccines into the state. And then the allocations here are King County has received approximately 300,000 of those. And then those are the allocations that get doled out by King County into the different vaccination sites. So people that have received at least one dose in King County is the 239,000 number, which is approximately 13% of King County's total population. And then we're sitting at about 3.7% of people in King County that have received both of those doses. I was on a conference call with Governor Inslee just this afternoon, and he did note that Washington has reached the 1 million vaccination mark as of yesterday, but we don't see those numbers yet because the data is behind. You have to understand that all the different vaccination sites dump all of their data into the system, and it can take several days for them to gather all of that information and get an accurate report. These numbers on this chart do not include the additional vaccines that are being shipped directly to tribes or the vaccinations that are being shipped directly to pharmacies. So those numbers are not available by county. So we do not have those statistics. So for local vaccine update, City of Des Moines, we have reached out to Seattle King County Public Health that is responsible for setting up and managing vaccination sites. We have offered up the Marina floor as a possible vaccination site, as well as our Des Moines Senior Activity Center. The reason that we offered up the senior center is because our staff has done an absolutely incredible job setting up the drive-through for the lunches. So if they wanted to do a pop-up vaccine site, we feel that this would be a very good location to be able to move people through close to the main thoroughfare of Highway 99. They haven't taken us up on either one. I haven't heard back. But we're still pounding away and letting them know that our hand is still in the air and we're more than willing to help. I personally went, I'm sorry?
Pardon me, Shannon. You know, did you get any assurance from the governor or anyone that this, you know, the number of doses we'll be receiving is going to ramp up in the next few weeks? It just seems like 7,300 a day is not a very high number.
Yeah, there was a press conference today by the federal government that they have secured additional vaccines. And the Biden administration's new goal is that they will have every American that wants to be vaccinated with their first vaccine by the end of June.
Okay, but nothing specific to Des Moines or South King County?
No, I can tell you that in Washington State, the focus area is South King County because our infection rates are so high. That is why you see the mass distribution site in Kent as well as in Auburn, because South King County is such a focus to get people vaccinated. The next mass vaccination station is going to be at Lumen Field, and they're hoping to open that one up by the 22nd of January. And once vaccines are available, they will have the capacity of doing 45,000 vaccines a day. But please note, demand still way outweighs the inventory that we have in a city, a county, or a state.
You mean 22nd of February?
Yes, sorry, 22nd of February.
Council, I would encourage you to hold your questions until Shannon finishes her presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions, please, in the interest of time and process. Please continue.
Thanks. So I did set up appointments and go meet with the store managers and pharmacy managers at our local Walgreens and Safeway with the anticipation that these pharmacies will be distributed vaccines directly, and knowing that their number of vaccines and the demand on their stores could way exceed their waiting area capacity. We made sure that they understood that the city of Des Moines had facilities that we would be more than willing to open up and allow them to use. If they could bring the staff to administer the vaccine, we would be more than happy to help with staffing and traffic administration in any facility that would accommodate them. Currently, we are in the Burien, Des Moines, Renton, SeaTac, Tukwila area. They do track vaccines for those that are 16 years of age and older. Just over 25,000 have received their first dose. The total population of the area is just over 200,000. And so 12% of the total population in our area have received their first dose. Next is the roadmap to recovery. I am pleased to announce that Governor Inslee did state today that all regions in Washington State will be moving to phase 2. Please know there are only 2 phases. The only restriction on that will be the South Central region, which includes Tri-Cities, Yakima, and Walla Walla. They will be staying in phase 1 due to their infection rates, currently just a little too high. Prevention measures still remain in place, avoiding gatherings indoors, making sure we're wearing our masks. There is a new recommendation from the CDC that if you are only wearing a 1-ply mask, to double up and add an additional mask to make sure that your mask is a 2-ply. Increase the ventilation in your home or in your place of business. Ensure you're staying 6 feet apart, and get tested at the very first sign of illness or having any type of close contact with a person that you know that has been infected. Most common exposures continue to be anybody within your own household or having gatherings within your own home. Non-healthcare workplaces are still very high. Healthcare settings, of course, and then those community and social gatherings where people tend to let too many people get together in small spaces. Supply of vaccine, I can't emphasize enough, is incredibly limited. Great news is Johnson & Johnson did apply last week for emergency authorization of use, and we should know if they were approved hopefully tomorrow. Regions are required to meet 3 of the 4 metrics in order to go from phase 1 to phase 2 in the roadmap for recovery. These are the 4 different areas that they watch. So any area that increases in these areas, meaning infections go up, hospitalizations go up, you could slide back to phase 1. So in practicing wearing our PPE and practicing social distancing, the goal is to keep cases on the plateau or going down. If we start to go back up, we could slip back into phase 1. There is no phase 3 as of yet. Governor Inslee stated today that he's not willing to look at a phase 3 yet, maybe next week, but he said that he would keep us posted. The update was due tomorrow. He came out a day early. So they do give us an update every 2 weeks. So probably 2 weeks from today or 2 weeks from tomorrow, we will know if people are staying or moving backwards. Vaccinations in King County. Currently, workers at high risk in healthcare, staff and residents of long-term care facilities, people 65 years of older, and then the multi-generational homes where you have people that are 50 years of older that are living with other people or helping take care of grandchildren, are also available to get vaccines in this criteria. Best ways to get vaccinated per Seattle King County Public Health is to contact your healthcare provider. I do know, I've heard from a lot of people, when you try and call, the first thing you hear is don't call us, we'll call you. I apologize for that, but hopefully that'll loosen up a little bit. But really the best way is to findyourphasewa.org. You can go in and fill out the questionnaire and it will pop up and tell you what phase you're in. You can enter your email address, your cell phone number, and they will actually text you and let you know when you're available and when your phase is open. So that is an option. Expanding vaccinations, like I said, we've got the high volume sites that were opened up in February in Kent as well as in Auburn. We also have some mobile strike teams that are mobilized by Seattle King County Public Health as well as the Regional Fire Authority that are going to those adult family homes, the licensed senior care facilities, and vaccinating those folks right there at those facilities. So I'm in the process of reaching out to Seattle King County Public Health and trying to find out which ones of ours have been vaccinated. And I want to compare our list to their list just to make sure we don't have any gaps. There is an ability to expand these vaccine strike teams, but again, it's going to depend on the availability of our vaccine supply. So this is the phase. This is the know your phase for Washington State. This has changed a couple of times. I think this is the 3rd revision that they have done so far. So we are in the 1A, 1B, tier 1. They have spring, summer for the next tier. As vaccines become more and more available, we will be able to open up into the 1B, tier 2. I did hear on the press conference today that they're anticipating that vaccine distribution for the next 3 weeks is going to be flat, but I don't know what we received this week. So as soon as those numbers are announced, they will be on the public health website, but no increase in vaccines for at least the next 3 weeks. We should see it in week 4. So this is the site that you can go. It's super easy to navigate. So you have the phase finder, which is a button that you can click on, and that's the questionnaire, and you load your email address and your information. It'll tell you what phase you fall under, and they will send you an email or a text message to let you know when your phase is open and when phases are, when you're available to get the vaccine. Additionally, you can find all of the vaccine locations here, and they're broken down by county. So this is really helpful for people like myself. My parents live in Whatcom County, so I'm constantly trying to find them a vaccine. You think it's hard down here, try Whatcom. So these break it down, and they're pretty good at updating it every week with new locations. So this is the location that you want to go to find out where you can get a vaccine. Vaccines, you are required to make an appointment. You go to the kingcounty.gov/vaccine and make your appointment. If you don't have access to the internet, you can call this 1-800 number and press pound to get help with registration by phone. They also have interpretations in, I think it was 47 languages. So they're ready to help anybody that needs it to get an appointment if you're eligible and if one is available. Vaccine supply and appointments are extremely limited, so there are long delays and there's very high volume. If your doctor or provider doesn't have any vaccines, then use the Find Your Phase. There's been a lot of talk in the media lately about variants, and I know that people are concerned about the different variants. The top 3 currently, there's the UK variant, which is the B117. It's been located in 33 states. As of yesterday, there was a total of 690 cases. This is the one of most concern because it is doubling in the United States every 10 days. The great news is that they have discovered that the vaccines do help protect against this variant, just maybe at a not as high of a percentage. However, please know that anybody that has gotten a vaccine has not been hospitalized and has not died from COVID. So that's great news for all of our vaccines. Another variant is the South African variant. It's been identified in 3 different states, and as of yesterday, there was 6 cases, all of which were on the East Coast. There is also the Brazilian variant, which is in 2 states with a total of 3 cases. The only vaccine that has been noted to not work on some of the variants is the AstraZeneca vaccine, and they are currently working on that, but that is not a vaccine that is currently available in the United States. With these vaccines, really, the main thing to know is they spread more easily. I think the best way that I heard Dr. Fauci explain it is they're more sticky. So they stick better to us and they can hang on better and multiply. So this is why it is so important to protect yourself and make sure that you remember your 3 W's. Wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. All facilities within the city of Des Moines are currently closed to the public and remain so. We are preparing for reopening. We are putting different health screens in place. We have PPE for our staff. Our offices are being reconfigured to ensure social distancing and that we can work safely. And we are working on an employee information blog so I can stop spamming everybody with emails all day, and they'll have a blog that they can go to come April and get the information that they need. Please know that opening is based on the status of the current pandemic, and we will not be opening any buildings until we feel it is safe and it has been noted by the state that we are clear to do so. But we will practice the utmost safety precautions before opening. So we do have our ongoing coordination with our EOC. We have our reliance on the emergency proclamation that was put in place last year. We do have our Des Moines Emergency Operations Center call that we do every week that is administered by our city manager, Michael Mathias, and all of our partners in the EOC, including South King Fire and the City of Des Moines Police Department, participate in that call with our department heads. We participate weekly in our Seattle-King County Public Health call on Thursday, where they give us a status update, and they focus a lot on regional activities in recovery, vaccinations, and updates from public health. I participate in the Greater Federal Way emergency management meetings with all of Federal Way's local partners. We get status updates from Federal Way Public Schools, as well as Water, Sewer, Public Works, the mayor, and other organizations. We have consultations regarding possible city action in the face of the pandemic. And then the city of Des Moines, we are committed. We are incredibly cautious, and we will follow the strictest of recommendations by the state and the CDC. I put in here some of the sites that I follow to make sure that we're getting the most up-to-date and accurate information, which includes Washington State Department of Health, which includes vaccination information. And then the state also has their individual dashboards. The state dashboards tend to lag a bit behind King County. So I like the King County dashboards a little bit better. King County has their COVID-19 resources as well as the data dashboards that we reviewed today. The CDC has COVID information and great flyers and informational information that can be printed and handed out to folks. I will be going to Safeway with some Find Your Phase and vaccination information and hanging out up there with a laptop so that I can help people find their phase. And I have the flyers about finding your phase as well as vaccine in 5 different languages to pass out to the folks that are there at Safeway. So hopefully between myself and Ms. Kelsey Cole with Parks and Rec, we'll be able to spend a few days out in public and making sure that people have the information that they need. Next one. Hey. That is the end of my presentation, Mayor.
Excellent job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael, well, first of all, before we go back to Michael, are there any council questions? Oh, Councilmember Buxton.
Shannon, could you clarify for the public about the cost of vaccines?
Sure, the vaccines are at no cost to the public. If you have insurance, they do ask you to show up with your health card. They do take the information and bill the insurance company for whatever the maximum is, but there is no out of pocket and there is no billing to the public, exactly as testing. Testing is the same.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, I will turn this back over to City Manager Matthias.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. You know, the thing about all of this information that Shannon described, there never was a playbook. This has all been evolving as we go forward, and we've been acting in a dynamic of uncertainty for over a year. And I think it's safe to say that when we talked with Shannon about becoming our emergency preparedness manager, she had no idea what was in store. But I can't tell you what a great job she's done in terms of providing information and being on top of what's going on that helps us and keeps us safe. So Shannon, thank you.
Excellent job, Shannon. Thank you.
I'd like to turn our attention to a couple of items that we just want to inform council about so that you're not blindsided or surprised by any actions that we're taking. So the first thing I'd like to talk with you about, or actually ask Dan to, is our banner program and our the beautification with our flowers in the downtown. So Dan, if you would.
Hey, good evening, Council, Mayor. This is year 3 of our downtown Marina District beautification project. And if you'll recall, when we started this, we talked about the first couple of years would be kind of ground pots with some flowers that we've done, and you've seen that. And we took a few years to do some tree pruning and tree maintenance, which we needed time to be able to do that so that we could eventually do some hanging baskets. Well, this year we're planning to start with the first phase of some hanging baskets. So you're going to see that primarily along Marine View Drive. So we're really excited about that. I know Peggy is chomping at the bit to get those baskets put up, and really looking forward to some colorful displays down there this year. So as we move to some of those hanging baskets, one of the challenges we have is, what do we do with our banner program that we've had for a couple of years in the Marina District? A lot of the banners that were down there were getting pretty faded, and it was time to replace those banners anyway. So we've been working with the staff to coordinate the locations where there'll be hanging baskets and locations where there'll be banners. And we're going to be kind of updating the banners for the Marina District this year. We have reached out, I think we have, or we're going to be reaching out to the Arts Commission to help get some ideas on what the new banners would look like in the Marina District. It's our intent this year to kind of do a holistic approach to the banners. I know in the past we've had some businesses that have paid to have their names on some of the banners. We're not doing that this year as we are rearranging where the banners are going to go, something that we can pick up in the future. But, you know, our thought was to have one holistic approach to the entire downtown and really spruce up the downtown with a lot more banners and the hanging baskets, and really help small business become more vibrant in the Marina District. So Michael, I don't know, that's kind of what I had to say on that.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I think the main difference is that where in the past we've had individual businesses sponsor the banners, this time what we're going to be doing is sort of a district-wide design and whatever the wording is that we end up with, but it's not going to be done by individual business. It's going to be done as a collective. This is our downtown district, and here's the beautification that we're working on. And it's certainly possible we go back to sponsored banners at some point, but we felt this year with some of the changes, we wanted to switch out the banners that were there. And it's just not the time we can really administer a banner program with business. So with that, Dan, I'm going to ask you to do one more thing because we're slowly getting through this list. Could you give us a brief update on planning and preparation for the coming snowstorm?
Well, I don't know. It looks like there was some flurries out there a little bit ago. I was just looking at the update. We were expecting to get a little bit of snow overnight. It looks like that may or may not be happening at this point, but we'll keep an eye on it literally hour by hour. There's a call scheduled for tomorrow morning with a number of us about 5:30. We'll kind of regroup to see what needs to happen with city planning if there's snow overnight. John's done a great job preparing. We've got the snow plows are all ready to go. It's been a couple of years since we've had a snowmageddon, so we're looking forward to the opportunity to remove some snow if it shows up. So we're ready.
Chomping at the bit to remove snow. Great. Finally, the last item. Yes.
On that section, I think we had a question from Councilmember Nunning. Are you entertaining a question at this time?
I just had a quick comment. If it actually comes to fruition, we're going to owe these guys 2 lunches.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. Any other comments about our, these guys have been putting down de-icer, I believe. And so getting ready for anything that we need to.
Yeah, this year the school district won't be coming to us saying if everybody else was good as our city, they've been able to open 3 days earlier too.
Yeah, well, that's true. And also I think garbage got picked up that didn't happen in other cities. So we're proud of that response. The last item that we have, I'm going to turn this over to both Nicole and Susan. And just to kind of give you an update on some of the parks program planning that we're doing, once again, and it fits within the context of the COVID presentation from Shannon, is that we don't know 90 days from now. We know today, and tomorrow we'll know more, and hopefully we continue to know more each day. But we have to be planning with precaution in mind. And so we just want to inform City Council as to what we're doing. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nicole Nordholm, Assistant Director of Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services. And I'll just give you a brief update. So the city has had extended discussions with the Highline School District in the midst of this pandemic. And we have decided for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year that we will not be offering our Club Chaos, the before and after school care. Highline School District is partnering with the YMCA and Right at School to provide fee-based childcare. So there'll be scholarships and sliding fee scales available, and this will include full day as well as the before and after care. We, again, we remain committed to staying connected with Highline, and we'll do everything we're able to in assisting with this transition. And we, of course, will, revisit in the coming months and for potential next year services. And then additionally, we've also, we've had a lot of discussion, and we've made the difficult decision to discontinue our preschool program, which was Robin's Nest at the field house. We ultimately saw that it was unfitting to compete with private sector resources for preschool programming. And again, we remain committed to well-being and the learning of our children. And with the great park staff, we continue to provide online resources and ideas for kids at home. And we will be reaching out to, families that have worked with us for years and, try to just help them solidify additional or alternate care. And as the city manager said, we really have no playbook when we're looking to manage through this pandemic. And our staff has been flexible and creative in just kind of planning for the future. So those are the updates.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. And Nicole really covered everything other than one other comment related to preschool. We also found that the demand was reduced due to the fact that the Highline School District has multiple preschool programs at low and or free cost. So it kind of made sense from that angle as well.
I believe I saw a hand from Councilmember Bangs. And,
yeah, Susan answered it because I was going to ask that question, why, and you did answer it. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe Councilmember Harris has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Nicole. Could you give me just a general idea of how many people in a non-COVID year would have taken advantage of Camp Chaos and the preschool?
So I want to say for the preschool was pretty, it wasn't well attended. I mean, that was kind of, the demand was down. And so I can look up numbers and get that to you. I'm not positive. I know that the before and after care, it depended on the location, but on any given day and any given location, there would be, I think, 10 to 25 students that would, drop in and out before and after.
Okay. And what about Camp Chaos?
So this is not, Camp Chaos would be like the summer camp that we're still kind of deciding what we're going to do with that. But this is Club Chaos, which was the before and after. Yeah.
Pardon me, Club Chaos. Could you give me an idea how many people would normally attend that?
Oh, that is the before and after school program. So it would be, I can again get you all of the numbers, but on any location for like one specific center, it would be, 10 to 25 students would be with 2 staff at an elementary school.
Thank you.
Nicole, if I could ask, just so the whole council gets the same information, would you provide that information to Bonnie and she'll share it with council?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mayor, if there are no other questions, that concludes our administration report.
All right, thank you, City Manager Mathias. Will the clerk please read our consent calendar?
Item 1, approval of minutes. Item 2, Vets and Seniors and Human Services Levy, VSHSL grant. Item 3, Intergovernmental Land Transfer Agreement between King County and the City of Des Moines for the transfer of properties, drain facilities, and easements. Item 4, Black History Month proclamation. Item 5, Washington State Future Cities Regional Competition. Item 6, Lodging Tax Advisory Committee appointment. Item 7, compensation for non-representative employees. And that concludes the consent calendar, Mayor.
Is there a motion? I see Councilmember Nutting's hand.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the consent calendar by Councilmember Nutting, seconded by Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Is there any item that a council member wishes to remove?
Mayor, I have a quick question. I don't think we need to remove it, but if I may ask, just regarding item 6.
The lodging tax advisory appointment?
Yeah, I just wondered if the person applying, they gave their address as at the hotel, and I just wondered, is that really, is that really where they live, or is that just, their place of work?
They are representing the hotel.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, may I? They don't, it's not that they live at the hotel, it's that they work at the hotel. So they're intimately involved in the lodging business.
I see. Thank you.
Okay. With that, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please raise your hand and until I say your name. Okay, I'm seeing Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Bangs, myself, and Deputy Mayor Mahoney. That passes 7-0. And at this point, I would like to turn the mic over to Councilmember Bangs to read the Black History Month proclamation into our record.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager Matthias, and also thank you to our Human Resources Director. Before I do read the proclamation, I would like to quote something I heard the other day on a Black History program by James Baldwin, who wrote the book and the film, I Am Not Your Negro, because I think it's extremely relevant based on what I'm getting ready to read. He states, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. History is not the past, it is the present. We carry our history with us. We are our history. And with that, I will read the proclamation. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. That's Maya Angelou. One's history is a fundamental aspect of one's cultural experience. To deny one's history or to have others deny one's history creates a falsehood as to the nature of one's experience. Defining myself as opposed to being defined by others is one of the most difficult challenges I face. And that's Carol Moseley Braun. She's the first Black female US Senator. The celebration of Black History Month is a recognition across this country of the experience and events occurring in the lives of African Americans and those whose roots run deep through the African diaspora. For I am my mother's daughter, and the drums of Africa still beat in my heart. That's Mary McLeod Bethune. She's an educator. She grew up in slavery. Acknowledgement of Black history points out that no one culture, no one race possesses claims to be the dominant history of our nation. It is a shared history seen through many different eyes. In these days that have presented the challenge of America accepting the truth that Black lives matter, it is all the more important to honor Black history and the innumerable contributions made by African Americans. History, seen through the eyes of people of color, reveals an America that engenders hope for justice, but also retains strong currents of endemic racism. Whereas Black History Month is celebrated in recognition of achievements and contributions made by African Americans and all people of African descent in the United States, and whereas Black History Month affords special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about Black heritage and to honor the many Black leaders who have contributed to the progress of our nation. And whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all citizens regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate barriers of equality, and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination, injustice, and poverty. And whereas the city of Des Moines embraces its diversity and acknowledges the invaluable contributions of its African-American residents and visitors as we celebrate Black History Month. And now, therefore, the Des Moines Council hereby proclaims and recognizes the month of February as Black History Month and urges our citizens and ourselves to join together in making this period of rededication to the principles of justice and equality for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Banks. We also have the proclamation for the Washington State Future Regional Competition that I want to read into the record. Whereas Future City is a national competition held as part of National Engineering Week in February of each year, in which teams of middle school students design and build models of cities at least 150 years into the future. And whereas the city of Des Moines recognizes that this competition introduces students to science, technology, engineering, and math, or otherwise known as STEM concepts, as well as career and technical education, as well as, the career and technical education aspect of working successfully in groups with time management and communication skills that build essential future job skills for our community and our nation. And whereas the city of Des Moines is pleased to observe that the students that must plan for and model the basic services and features of a city, such as zoning, infrastructure, and city location, thus preparing them for duties of future citizenship. And whereas the city of Des Moines applauds the participating teams from Pacific Middle School and their instructor for participating this year during the pandemic and placing third place overall at the virtual state Future City Regional Competition. And now, therefore, the city of Des Moines, the Des Moines City Council hereby proclaims that the following Pacific Middle School students, along with their instructor, Sandy Gady, have demonstrated excellence in the Washington State Future City Regional Competition and invites the citizens to join in congratulating them. Team Kepler. We have Maddie Fanin, Alicia Jones, Capri Rinaldi, and Elisa White, students. We have Team Zenolith with Shu Blank, Melinda Nguyen, Brandon Rott, and Tristan Han, students. Team Pacific Celine, Olden Ivy, student. Team Kaskanzini, they knew I was going to have to read this, with Veta Kramer and Leah Easterling, students. And that concludes the proclamations and takes us forward to new business. And we have our item number 1, which is the Wesley Holmes pedestrian bridge at 216th Street. And we have a staff presentation from our Public Works Director, Brandon Carver. And
thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pena. And I did want to acknowledge, I think Kevin Anderson is joining us, so I welcome his attendance to our meeting as well. What's before you, and maybe Bonnie, are you going to share their
Mr. Carver, did we lose you?
So there, got me?
Got you back, yep.
Okay. There, Bonnie's, looks like she's put up some pictures. Thank you, Bonnie. As you know, we have a great partnership with Wesley Holmes in many different facets. and certainly you've been aware of the construction going on at the southwest corner of 11th Avenue and 216th, where Wesley is going through a major revision, or improvement of their gardens campus. And they approached us I would say about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, with the concept of a pedestrian bridge connecting their gardens campus over to Wesley Terrace on the north side of 216th. And so we are just wanting to make sure, as we work with them, we've just recently given approval to a design review concept. And before we go any further, we just want to check in with the council to make sure that we're not getting ahead of the council, that there aren't any reservations about a sky bridge over 216th. I think it's an opportunity where for sort of a gateway entrance into the city as well. And so we're looking to formalize an agreement with Wesley Homes that would outline several things, including maintenance responsibilities, liability, airspace rights, those sorts of things. But just checking in with the council to make sure we're on the right track and get confirmation from the council. There's some photos of the bridge. I think it's going to be an asset, especially for the residents and the users of the Wesley campus, to be able to cross in not so pleasant weather as well. A very safe connection. You don't have to go outside at all. So from building to building, those crossings could be made for staff and residents, and just an all around real attractive piece of architecture. It looks like it'll be. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. I see Kevin's with us as well. And so with that, the motion is on page 83 of the packet.
I see the hand of Councilmember Bangs and then Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this for quite some time. The first thing and of course it's a drawing, so the first thing I would ask is, what is going to be the clearance of that bridge going across to 16th?
Specifically underneath?
Yes.
Yeah. We had that question very early, and we went with our there's federal guidelines for transportation clearance over a roadway. I don't want to say a number and get it wrong, but it's been confirmed to be within the AASHTO or highway standards, so that we wouldn't want any unforeseen accident or issue where an oversized vehicle hits that bridge, similar to their standards for the height of signal displays at a traffic signal. I can get that exact number to you. I just don't want to misquote that. But that was certainly one of our biggest concerns, is making sure it's high enough and it doesn't get hit by
if you
traffic.
would, Brandon,
I
I'm
will.
sure we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Before we go to Councilmember Harris, I want to acknowledge the fact that I saw Councilmember Buxton's hand and Councilmember Nunning's hand. So at this point, I'll go to Councilmember Harris.
So, yeah, just a quick comment. If you can make it low enough so that, long haul trailers can't get through there, I think that would be a fabulous idea. But that aside, can you give me kind of a use case? Like, what people will actually be using this? And, have you kind of given some thought as to how much traffic, what kinds of people? It just, is it going to be constantly used, and who's going to be using it?
Well, I think Kevin could probably better answer that question if he's available to it. I do want to state that this would be a private bridge. This is a privately owned, built, maintained structure. That's the proposal. This is not necessarily open to the public. There's no public entrance from 216 to get to the Sky Bridge. This would be between one part of Wesley Homes to another part of Wesley Homes. And maybe, Kevin, you can elaborate on the users that you anticipate.
Thank you, and Brandon, and thank you, members of the council and mayor. Primarily, as you know, we have had residents hit on 216th. We've also had staff members hit on 216th, crossing 216th. And so it becomes a huge safety issue for our residents and our staff. Primarily, the bridge would be used for residents and staff to go across 216th in inclement weather at night when we have different activities. As you know, with the whole redevelopment, there's going to be a number of different amenities on each side of the campus that residents will want to use. Transportation of meals across the bridge are culinary items. So nurses responding to the other side of the campus in the late hours, and not having to go outside and worry about crime or anything like that. Not that there is much in Des Moines, but primarily for residents and staff to go back and forth for different activities, to take in the amenities, and then the safety issues.
Okay, but you haven't like quantified like a number.
Well, I couldn't give you an absolute number, but we'll have over 550 residents on campus, and there's going to be a lot of people going back and forth over that daily. So it will be used a tremendous amount. Once we have the campus fully developed out, there will be a lot of back and forth between the buildings.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Buxton.
I had a question about the design elements and how that will move forward to match whatever either what's on 216th or a sailboat theme, or how will the design elements be decided upon in committee with the city of Des Moines, or?
Susan, do you want to maybe answer that? I know that it has gone through sort of an initial design review process where the some of the design elements are looked at in relation to the Marina District guidelines, but I don't want to misspeak. And so really the design of the structure itself, you know, engineering or public works, we're looking more at clearances, shy distance from the roadway to the columns, kind of those safety measures. But as far as the look, community development has a much stronger role in that. Maybe Susan, you can elaborate.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So as you're aware, we do a design review on any major project, and the design review for this project has been done. The signage was held for later, so that would be a separate approval. But essentially, we are looking for all of our developments to have a cohesive look, and that essentially it uses the same materials as the other portions of the development. So most of the design has been approved as far as the design review aspect.
All right. Yeah, just the two, it seemed like there were two different pictures. One seemed to match the sailboat curve, and another seemed to match more the structure of the Wesley building itself. So I didn't know if maybe that was still up for discussion. Did you, maybe I didn't see that. That looked like there were two different.
Brandon, yeah, I'm not sure if that's from the actual design review decision, but we could find the one that is approved with the design review and send it to the council.
Yeah, the image on page 85 of the packet is the design review submittal. I think the image that Bonnie was sharing are more of an architectural rendering, if that's correct, Kevin. Yeah. So I think they're intended to be the same, same basic design, but it looks like where it's blue with some of the kind of mast looking supports, that's over the center of the road. Looks like that goes over 216th, and then it looks like Bonnie's gonna, yeah. So I think that's a very accurate picture. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Buxton? do you all see the shared screen?
I believe everybody can see it.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. From here, I've got Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Mahoney, and then Councilmember Harris raised his hand for his second turn. So at this point, I go to Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you. I just a question that I don't know the answer to. Railroads own the rights over the railroad, and you can't put anything over the top of them without buying the rights or getting approval from them. Over our streets, do we own the rights over the roads as well? So are we going to gain something from this other than permit fees and other things?
Brandon, let me take that one.
Sure.
The answer is yes. And so part of the motion that's before you is to direct it, if you like this concept, would be to direct administration to develop and negotiate an agreement with Wesley Homes for the permanent use of the right-of-way. That's required as part of the Des Moines Municipal Code, that the council would have ultimately approved the permanent use of a right-of-way like what this would be. So there'd be an aerial easement over the right-of-way. And so what we'll do, if you like this concept, is we'll work with Kevin and his staff and put together an agreement. And we'll bring that back to council for final approval. We just didn't want to go through all that effort if you don't like this at all. We'd rather stop right now and not waste our time, but we think this is a good idea, and we just wanted to get a check from the council before we go any farther. So,
Mayor, may I?
Yes, and then I'll go Mahoney, Harrison, Bangs for the second time.
I just wanted to say, following up with that, it's a pleasure to have Kevin here. We've worked closely with Wesley multiple times in multiple ways, but I do want to remind the council that Wesley donated right-of-way for our 216th improvements. They participated financially in a number of projects, including improvements to the roadways. So it's just something to keep in mind that, it's a snapshot in time relative to the development that they're doing, but it's an ongoing partnership that I think, easily say we mutually benefited from. So it's just something to keep in mind as we go through this process. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got to know several employees or several residents on both the garden and the terrace over time. And one of their biggest call outs was that they seem disconnected from the other side. I think this is a fantastic idea. And in addition to their safety and everything else, where we get to tie them together as a community, it answers a question that a lot of them wishes they could have. So congrats. I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
So is there a way you can go back to that very nice artistic rendering? I'm having trouble seeing where the sidewalks fit into all of this. And, yeah. Where are the sidewalks and how does that all work?
well, yeah, this is just a rendering to get you an idea about what the bridge itself would look like, but the sidewalks would be and the entire road prism would be between those columns that you see sitting there.
Okay, so inside the two main pylons.
Yep, the entire roadway and the sidewalks and any landscaping that we have would all be inside those two.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, Councilmember Bangs.
Yes, I just wanted to, now parrot Deputy Mayor Mahoney's comments. We've worked very well with Wesley, and I think we've gotten to respect each other, city council, as well as staff at Wesley. And that rendering, even though it may not necessarily be final, just really accentuates what you're trying to do at Wesley, Kevin. And I think that's awesome. I know there's been a lot of displacement. I've heard that from a lot of people, but you know, you gotta give a little to get a lot. And I think what you're providing, the staff as well as the residents there, looks fantastic. And I think moving forward with this is going to be beneficial for the whole city as well. Again, make sure that the height is, you know, high enough. We want big trucks coming through. Sorry, Councilmember Harris, but anyway, great job. I really like what's going on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may,
Please.
you know, our total investment in this project is going to be well over 250 million by the time we're done. And this is about a $2 million endeavor, a little less than that, to create the safety, to tie the two buildings together. I hear all the time too, just like Councilmember Mahoney said, you know, it's when I came to Wesley, oh, we're two different campuses. We've got the gardens and we got the terrace, and then you also have the new health center. Well, in the end of the whole redevelopment, there will be a brand new health center on the south side of 216th that's going to be all tied together. So all our buildings will be tied together with this overpass or this bridge. Being from Minnesota, I know about cold weather and I know about inclement weather, and it's not quite as cold here as it is there this week. So there's just a whole host of advantages, and I think too, as a number of you stated as well, is that this can be a real gateway to the Marina District, and it can be used. And I think there's some things that we can do together with the city, with this whole sky bridge, and as a gateway to the marina, which I think is one of the real crown jewels of our city, is that, and hopefully Wesley will be a crown jewel too. I think it is already, but just as the whole marina district gets redeveloped, this is going to be really neat as you come down 216th and see that overpass.
Yeah, and Mr. Anderson, I'd like to note that, you know, the relationship with Wesley goes back very far. As a matter of fact, the building that the land that our city hall sits on, I believe, was through an agreement with Wesley from many years ago. And you know, this I do think this pedestrian bridge will tie the two campuses together. I know that in the senior living community that you oversee, you have events that occur on both sides. And it's great to be able to bring all of those people together. I'd have the privilege of being part of many of them. And this is how people come together and enjoy holidays, whatever celebrations, cultural celebrations. I think you do an outstanding job at that. But we also have to acknowledge that to get across the street is sometimes very frightening for people because they use walkers. They're not as fast as they used to be, and people get impatient. Plus the fact that when you think about where the crosswalk was, there's an arc on the hill at that time. So sometimes visibility, if you're going down the hill, is a challenge. I think this sky bridge solves a lot of safety issues, even around slipping with inclement weather and so forth. Additionally, there's the ability to say, welcome to Des Moines one more time in a very, you know, fashionable way. I just think it's an outstanding opportunity for us. And with that, I would like to make the motion to move to approve the general concept of the private pedestrian bridge over South 216th Street, owned and maintained by Wesley Homes, and direct administration to prepare a draft agreement with Wesley Homes for a pedestrian bridge for future council consideration. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the second.
Second.
Okay, I made the motion. Second was made by Councilmember Bangs. All those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. I see Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Martinelli. I see Councilmember Buxton. I see Councilmember Bangs, myself, and Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Any opposed? Please raise your hand. Opposed is Councilmember Harris. Motion passes 6-1. Okay. And with thank you, Mr. Anderson. I appreciate you joining our meeting for this.
My pleasure.
And at this point, we will go to new business item number 2, North Marina parking lot bulkhead and restroom replacement, environmental mitigation, banking, XL Tech consulting design contract, supplemental agreement, number 2 and number 3. When we have a staff presentation by our transportation and engineering services manager, Andrew Murgis.
Andrew, I'm going to just introduce this for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. So we, there were many times that we never thought we'd be sitting here being able to share this, the NIMS permit and the movement forward and the allocation of resources from the state government that were increasingly difficult to retain year over year over year, despite the extraordinary support from Representative Orwell and Senator Kaiser, to be honest, and others from the 30th and 33rd. But this is a monumental breakthrough for the city. And I'm so proud of the efforts that Andrew and Brandon, Dan made. Anthony Hempstead helped us. We had the engagement of Congressman Adam Smith. We had the mayor involved in meetings with Adam, and the support of the council to move this forward. So Andrew's going to report this, but the context is extraordinary. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Can everybody hear me all right?
Believe so.
All right, perfect. Good evening, council and mayor. This is Andrew Murgis, the city engineer for the community. I'd like to just provide a brief project update. Like Michael said, we've hit a great milestone, one that's been we've been waiting for years here, longer than I think anybody had anticipated. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, one back, Bonnie. All right, thank you. For those of you who may not know or anybody listening in, the bulkhead project, or the existing bulkhead down in the North Marina parking lot, was completed back in 1979. And the current condition right now, and why we're pursuing a project, is that a lot of the elements, the timber elements, are degraded and falling apart. And we're kind of doing, there's a picture to the right there that shows some temporary concrete sandbags that help kind of hold the bulkhead together. We also have an old restroom out there that was built back in 1980 with brick walls, cast in place roof, limited capacity, and just a lot of maintenance issues down there. So both the bulkhead of the North Marina floor as well as the restroom kind of have met their useful life. And the project, the North Marina parking lot bulkhead and restroom replacement project, holistically replaces all those elements to try to get another 40-year service life out of the public facilities down there. Next slide, please. To put the council packet that was in front of you in a little bit of context, plus to talk about when we use the terms project phasing, right now we have a grant from the Department of Commerce for phase 1, kind of our initial project. And what that is, that's the North Timber Bulkhead replacement. And it curves a little bit around past the fishing pier on the west bulkhead as well, kind of up to that little existing, I call it a little pier access point out there. The second and the first phase also includes the restroom. The phase 2 piece of the project continues with the remainder of the west and south bulkheads, and also proposes to replace the timber breakwater that's out there as well. And I'll get into it in a second. Next slide, please. So really quick on project status, like Michael mentioned, we're kind of at the end of the engineering and permitting. We're pretty much ready to go. The biggest challenge we've had so far, which I've presented on a few times, has been the Army Corps permit. All of the state permits, all of the local permits have been obtained. They've been in our hands for a while. But the biggest one on the bottom there, the Army Corps of Engineers nationwide permit, was a very lengthy process to get through. From the perspective on, there were various federal agencies we had to work with for their concurrence and oversight of the project, primarily in relation to the Endangered Species Act. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as the National Marine Fisheries Service, have authority for work that's in the waters of the U.S. to ensure that projects either limit disturbance to the endangered species that may be present out there, or mitigate for any damages that a project may propose to do. And in our case, for the bulkhead project, it was determined that endangered species will be affected. Next slide, please. So a little bit diving into it a little bit, the Army Corps permit that we received is for phase 1 and phase 2. So as we pursue the construction and the implementation of the projects, it is phased per the permit, but we don't have to go back and ask for permission again, which is really nice. Everything's kind of finished at this point in time. The Army Corps permit illustrated that we do have that impact to the endangered species, and from a dollar perspective, from a market-based perspective on the value of that resource is coming in about $344,000 of impact is what they determined this project to be at. And in order to move the project forward, there's a whole bunch of various different strategies a project proponent or an applicant can take. They can either modify the project, look for other solutions to mitigate environmental impact, or another option, which is very fast and also market-based, is a term we use as mitigation banking. And what that is it's basically a authorized project, regional project within or close to our project, in which you can buy what we call credits. We can basically, for all the depth that we have or the impact that we have, we can buy credits to compensate for that. And the nice thing about that is you pay a third party to manage that other project as piece of a bigger regional endeavor, and they kind of own that process of mitigation forward. It kind of relieves the agency of following that through to completion. And for this project, that was kind of the fastest solution we had, plus the least cost, just due to how far we are with permitting and design. Most other options are require you to redesign and get reapprovals, and it would just drag out the process even longer here and put our grant funding at risk. The mitigation bank is up north that we're proposing on using. It's called the Blue Heron Slough. It's accepted by the Corps and National Marine Fisheries. So it's a very, very quick, easy process to work through. The other part of the Army Corps permit that I want to make everybody aware of is there's a lot of different terms and conditions to minimize and document potential impact before, during, and after construction. So as I researched and I analyzed all the different things that we've got to pay attention to during construction of phase 1 and phase 2, there's going to be some added costs in order to satisfy and demonstrate to the Corps of Engineers that we've actually met all those terms and conditions. And that cost is running at about $285,000 just based on different estimates I've been able to gather up to this date. So the overall Army Corps permit to implement to satisfy or impact the endangered species that may be present out there, primarily the orca population and the salmonoid populations, is running right about that $629,000 mark to make this project actually happen underneath the Corps purview here. Next slide. Really quick, we've had some great news and some great developments on the grant funding. This project has had a $1.95 million direct appropriation from the state of Washington. Originally, we thought that all of that would have to be used during construction. We've been able to work with the Department of Commerce down in Olympia on trying to spend that money before the end of the current biennium, which would be June 30th coming up here. And what's been great, some great developments, they've approved a request that we had of about 1.5 million, which we should be getting a check for that anytime soon here. They approved that, as well as they also gave me preliminary approval that they would reimburse us for that mitigation bank kind of construction permit that we have there, which is great. It kind of takes us almost to the end of spending all of the money, so we don't have to ask for another reappropriation. We do have a balance though that we still have about $88,000 left of the grant that we need to spend before June 30th, and that pretty much is reliant on construction and construction administration work. There's not much else I can do with design and permitting at this point. So there may be a future council action for consultant construction administration and inspection services prior to a public works contract, so we can kind of get going on some of that pre-construction reporting and actually bill out the remaining grant amount, just so we don't potentially lose it after the biennium ends. Next slide, please. Okay, just a couple quick notes on the motions in the council packet. There's 3 of them. The first motion that you'll see this evening is to direct staff to enter into that mitigation banking agreement to buy those credits and satisfy the permit conditions for the Corps of Engineers. The second motion that you'll see is to complete the phase 1 bid documents, which is primarily the inclusion of all those terms and conditions and changes we have to make to the project to satisfy the Corps permit and get it on the street and actually get contractors to bid the project. So that's for phase 1. The third motion that you'll see there is related to phase 2. And what that does is it basically takes phase 2 and finishes design and implements all the Corps permit terms and conditions as well into phase 2. But what it does is it allows phase 2 to be added to the phase 1 contract as a bid alternative, which in essence means we'll get prices on phase 1 and phase 2, and the agency will be able to decide if they want to accept or reject phase 2 cost in that work once we see the bid prices. And the one item that will be interesting to see how it plays out is recently we've been working, the city has applied for another direct appropriation, another grant through Olympia and Commerce for phase 2. So the third motion kind of helps get us set for if that appropriation comes through and funding is available for phase 2, we can kind of combine both projects, take advantage of that, and be able to spend that phase 2 money within the biennium in which it would be appropriated to coming up here. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
First thing I saw, Dan Brewer, Jeremy Nutting, and JC Harris.
Just really briefly wanted to add onto what Andrew was just saying. You'll remember we passed, council passed legislative priorities for Anthony to be working on. And given the update that Andrew just gave you, we have directed him not to focus on the reappropriation at this point, but to focus more on the additional funding for phase 2. So given that, that's why we're recommending to go ahead and finish the design so that when Anthony is successful, as he's promised to be, no pressure, Anthony, but we'll be ready to go to construction on the entire bulkhead.
Thank you. Councilmember Nutting.
I have one question. We need to approve all 3 of these motions tonight to move forward. With that, I make the motion, number 1, I move to approve the agreement for the sale of conservation credits to the Wildlands. I'm sorry, I'm reading off of a second screen. Of Washington LLC for Blue Heron Slough Conservation Bank, discounted services acre year, DSAY in parentheses, credits as required by the U.S. Army Corps of Permit NWS 2018-492 and as certified by U.S. NOAA, NOAA, National Marine Fisheries Services, NMFS, in parentheses, reference number WCRO-2020-0136, and further authorize city manager to sign said agreement substantially in the form as submitted.
Is there a second? I see Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Okay. Okay, and this takes us forward to discussion on the motion. Councilmember Harris, you had your hand up, so I'll call on you first.
Thank you, Mayor. Andrew, has the city done any design work as to alternatives to paying into this credit bank? And if so, could you provide them? You know, it doesn't have to be now, but if you could send them to council.
Yeah, so I mean, just in general, the council packet underneath the discussion for motion 1 talked about there's a couple bullet points within that discussion that are kind of designated as 1.1 through 1.5. And basically what happens is National Marine Fisheries, as part of the core process, they basically told us, here's your 5 options that are available to use in order to make up our debit issue out there. And the team went through each one of those 5 alternatives. And overall, the theme of the story is, no matter what we did to the bulkhead as far as reduction in size or the footprint, like currently we pulled it back 4 feet, or any on-site mitigation, the debit load we have of the 2,043 debits on the project, there was nothing in Des Moines that would come close to taking care of that debit load. And it was, you know, the management team with me really looked at that closely and determined the only way to do it is really going through the mitigation bank. But there are those 5 different alternatives that we did look at.
No, I believe you. I just wanted, just for my own benefit, to understand what their objections were. So, you know, if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Yeah, so on that too, there was no, I guess the permitting agencies don't have any objections to anything. What it is the agency has to submit a proposal to the permitting agency for their review and acceptance. So they leave a lot of discretion on an agency to try to come up with something. So we kind of went through the process on the magnitude of impact to the Endangered Species Act. And then it kind of landed on just the one option in mitigation bank purchasing, and that, you know, the other ideas are great. It just doesn't get as far with credits.
Okay, so along those lines, is there any website or information you can send me which explains this whole credit debit system in, you know, simple words that I could understand? Because I've tried looking it up, and it seems remarkably convoluted and vague. So maybe I'm not looking in the right spot.
Just imagine what Andrew had to go through to actually get the permit.
Yeah, Councilmember Harris, you'd be shocked at the whole industry of environmental compliance is.
No, I wouldn't.
Is in the line. But no, there is a couple. What I can do is I'll send Bonnie a couple links to National Marine Fisheries websites that try to explain this at a 60,000 foot level. But I will forewarn you that it's still very hard to, unless you work at NOAA, they kind of do their own thing and they don't like to tell people what they're doing as far as how they determine what the impact is. But I've got a couple links I can share with you.
This is a very specific number, and I just am curious as to how they came up with, you know, 343 or 344, depending on which piece of paper.
Yeah, you bet. In the council packet too, I've got a little statement in there on National Marine Fisheries used a couple of different modeling techniques.
Yeah.
And the websites I'll send you kind of elaborate on what those modeling techniques do and how they work.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yep.
Is there any further discussion? Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. So in essence, these conservation credits is a trade for the impacts that we'll have to the sound. They're going to be sent somewhere else. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the mitigation banking, they will be outside of kind of Des Moines proper. You know, that the Blue Heron Slough is up north. But what National Marine Fisheries Service does with the Corps is they actually determine a large project like Blue Heron Slough mitigation. They have a certain what they call a reach. So Des Moines is within that reach. So it provides what they consider a local benefit for that population of species that we're impacting. So, you know, with primarily it's salmonoid species, I think Blue Heron Slough is targeting. And I think that benefit really helps out, you know, account for the damages down here on the South Sound.
And if we were to go to another route, what are we looking at in delays, just out of curiosity?
So the other routes, so in general, the other options that you have is you can redesign your project and repropose something new, which my honest opinion of this is the mitigation banking or just the impact endangered species really looks at the whole marina floor of the north parking lot area, and it values it based on a pre-existing condition. So basically National Marine Fisheries is saying you're impacting the whole floor impacts those species. So you must, you know, either take the whole bulkhead out or you're going to have to mitigate somehow. So you can either redesign it and try to get that impact down. Unfortunately, our beaches, our tidelands around these facilities are actually in pretty good condition. So there's not much around us that we can do to make up for that issue. The other option we can go through is to look for other agencies or organizations like King County or City of Seattle or even nonprofits that do restoration and see if they have any large scale projects that we can fund or partner with them on. But from a delay perspective, you know, redesign, re-looking for partnerships, and then getting a re-approval through National Marine Fisheries and the Corps, I'd assume that's going to take 12 plus months, plus additional resources above and beyond just what we need to get the project to add. So you know, it'd be a year or two out to make another option work, and it would probably cost a lot more.
Sounds painful. And last question I have, rough estimate, the 2-year delay we've had, I mean, this should have been done essentially. How much does that cost us in opportunity? Like obviously if it would have been 10 million 1 year, 2 years ago, it'd be 12 or 13 this year with the two-year delay.
I honestly, I don't know. I think the pandemic has really altered construction bidding, and I honestly don't have enough recent data on the maritime side or the water side construction and what contractors are still in business and not. On average, though, I've been programming about 5 to 7% cost escalations, which is pretty consistent for the past couple years.
So we could almost say safely a couple $1 million.
That I probably wouldn't go that high. I mean, honestly, once we get the bids, I'll be able to answer your question pretty quick.
All right. Well,
it's tough to tell right now.
It's a lot. Yes, that's what I was after. All right. Thank you. No questions, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I will ask all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand and I will recognize you. I see Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Buxton, Councilmember Harris, myself, and Deputy Mayor Mahoney. Opposed? Opposed is Councilmember Martinelli. Motion passes 6-1. Councilmember Nutting.
I move to approve supplemental agreement number 2 with XL Tech Consulting for the North Marina parking lot bulkhead and restroom replacement project in the amount of $64,849.82 to complete phase 1 design and engineering, and further authorize the city manager to sign said agreement substantially in the form as submitted.
Your second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Buxton. Any discussion? Councilmember Harris.
Ah, there we go. So, Andrew, I asked Dan yesterday, and is there any way to at this point to predict the effect on people going to the beach once this work starts, if any? You're going to be tearing out thousands of old, pounds of old creosote and so forth. And
Yes. So in general, I think there's two things to consider during construction. One is access to Beach Park and those facilities. And for the most part, those are going to stay open. We're not going to impact those facilities. And during construction, in our contract, the way we've written it is that the contractor must maintain access to the fishing pier facility, except for, I think, maybe 30 days in order to build the new precast structure that connects the new bulkhead to the existing fishing pier. So the project in general, I think the impact is more taking away the parking, and we're trying to accommodate as much use as we can with the type of activities we're going to have down there. But yeah, the beach park stuff, the beach will still be open. The fishing pier will be open, except a couple closures here and there. It's just the parking and some of the just pedestrian movements that will be more constrained, quite a bit more constrained than they are today.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. I see Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Buxton, myself, and Deputy Mayor Mahoney. This passes 7-0. Councilmember Nutting.
I move to approve supplemental agreement number 3 with XL Tech Consulting for the North Marina parking lot bulkhead and restroom replacement project in the amount of $128,808.09 to complete phase 2 design and engineering, and further authorize the city manager to sign said agreement substantially in the form as submitted.
Second.
And I have seconded by Councilmember Buxton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand until I call your name. I see Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Buxton, myself, and Deputy Mayor Mahoney. This motion passes 7-0. Okay, we will now go forward to our board and committee reports, and we will start with Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. A few brief comments. At the last meeting, I touched on wanting the city to do municipal broadband, and I just want to state that there's actually, what many people don't realize is that a lot of public utility districts and port districts are actually prohibited from selling broadband directly to customers. There's actually a bill in the legislature right now, House Bill 1336, which would stop this. It would actually allow local governments and port districts to sell broadband And I just encourage everyone to look into and advocate for that bill. It was introduced, and within about a week, it passed its initial committee with just one no vote. So there's reason to be optimistic. That's House Bill 1336. Again, I encourage people to look into that and support it. I also want to note that, for the past couple months, our meetings have been on YouTube, which is great. It means that, not people have another option of tuning in live. They also have another option of watching past meetings. And more importantly, they have an option of pausing a live meeting if they need to. But I've had some residents ask me why we don't have committee meetings on YouTube. And I think that's a really good question. And so what I would like to propose is that I know there's a lot of logistics. I'm not putting forth a motion right now. I'm just, just putting it out there. There's a lot of logistics, I'm sure, behind getting our committees onto YouTube. But as of right now, there's almost no way for people to really watch those meetings. There is, if they pre-email for the link to the Zoom, but there's no way whatsoever to watch past meetings. And given that so much of our government goes through these committees, I think that it would only make sense that we would give the public the ability to view those. And I think that should apply to every committee. And so, yeah, I think that would be good. And also one thing I want to touch on, not to take Councilmember Bang's committee report, but since this is an issue I have been focused on for a while, Police Chief Thomas mentioned at our Public Safety Committee meeting that our mental health field response team will be staffed by the end of the month or early next month at the latest, and they will be out in the field, shortly after. I think it's excellent that we've moved so fast on this. The council approved this on the 21st of last month. It hasn't even been 3 weeks, and we're already, getting towards having it be an active team, and I think that's really exciting, and I'm proud of what we're able to do with that. And that's all my comments for today. Thank you.
Councilmember Bangs.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee meeting tonight. As you heard from our manager, Shannon Kirschberg, on vaccination updates, that was very well presented and very thorough. Commander Gradden discussed hiring updates. There are 6 very qualified in-house officers who have applied and tested for the sergeant position. There are no sergeant positions open. They're just there at some point in the future, if there are some retirements, they would be ready to fill in those positions. Of course, they're going through leadership training and will be participating as acting sergeants. There are currently 2 vacant positions, one in traffic and one master police officer, and they're looking to hire for those as soon as possible. And as Council Member Martinelli stated, the mental health update related to our contracting for a mental health provider is moving along quickly. We'd had some minor changes to the work plan, nothing to really talk about. I attended as a liaison, the Arts Commission meeting, and we went over Black History Month and what the Arts Commission could do. Very great ideas there. Hopefully we'll see something soon on our website. And we went over the 2021 budget as well as events, and a lot of things going on there. I mean, virtual is good, but boy, it sure be great to have something live. And I know we have to deal with the COVID and where we stand as a council in a city. Squidorama is set for November 13th, so put that on your calendar, even though this is February. So that'll be pretty cool. We discussed the traffic wraps, and I'm hoping to have a meeting with our director, Susan Cesar, as well as some of the other departments, and I'm hoping to see that happen in the next month or so. And also attended as a liaison the DMPD Advisory Committee and the Diversity Task Force. A lot of discussion there related to what's going on in the world, but in our, of course, in our country here. And then the senior advisory update, I wanted to do a shout out, and I appreciate Council Member Buxton allowing me to do this. Thank you for that information that you provided, as well as Nicole Nordholm. So in recognition of Black History Month and the work our communities are doing across the nation, the council wanted to give a shout out to our senior center and staff, who even before the national call out for equity and inclusion, our city's been working with the county to partner our center with the Central Area Senior Center. I'm going to say it's CASC, to provide more enriching cultural experiences through art, food, and interaction. So our center is hosting a Black History Lunch February 26th, and that's going to be prepared by the Central Area Senior Center and their chef, Jackie Sue. We also purchased a shuttle van to enhance transportation between the centers. And then tonight, who are we? We, the council, approved the grant to continue these programs, and there are quite a few programs involved. So I'm only going to mention a few. There's outreach to the Central Area Senior Center, to African diaspora communities and veterans, sharing recently hired, we're going to share a recently hired social worker that we're collaborating with them. Adding culturally appropriate holiday meals and exercise programs, which are going to be virtual with them, and assisting seniors in accessing it. And there'll be bridging cultures trainings, webinars. So there's a lot of things that'll be virtual, but it'll be a lot more than what we're able to provide until we can actually get physically together. So a shout out to Nicole and staff. Shout out to Wesley staff, and thank you very much. We appreciate all the work you've done. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Baines. Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you there, Mayor. On the 28th, Municipal Facilities Committee met, and we had an update on our work plan and planned grant applications and some tentative PSE electric charging stations. For the field house play equipment, we're hoping that we get a grant from the King County Youth and the youth program, and we'll try for that in May. And then the PSE electric charging stations, there's a possibility for a couple of those down at the marina. PSE picks up the installation of all that. All we got to do is pay for the power for a couple of years, and they remain with us. There were some questions. We'll get more on that update there. And then on the 28th also, the Economic Development Committee met, and we talked about our work plan and our growth targets. We look good because we're high capacity transit. We've got a good capacity to grow. Not a ton of jobs to be had, but state made some changes, and they're reasonable for our area. And that's all I got for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to compliment Councilmember Bangs, her comments and her reading of their proclamation were very well done. I was also very pleased to read in the city manager's report to staff last week that he was encouraging all city employees to get vaccinated. Thank you very much for doing that. On a less happy note, I have been denied access to the advisory committee run by our police chief on several occasions. This is simply intolerable. I've been going to various advisory committees as a resident, for years. No one's ever said you cannot come in before. So I am making a motion to require that all meetings of statutory boards, commissions, and citizen advisory bodies shall be open to any member of the city council. Our job is oversight, and we should be able to be welcome guests at any city-sponsored meeting. And this is simply adding one sentence to rule number 30 of our rules of procedure. And so I make that motion formally. Meetings of all statutory boards and commissions and council citizen advisory bodies shall be open to any member of the city council as guest. Do I have a second?
Second.
I would like to defer to our city attorney. I don't believe that I can take the motion at this time because it is outside of our agenda. Attorney George, can you please, is this a valid motion or is this not?
Well, that's correct, Mayor. As the presiding officer, you can rule that this motion is out of order. It's not currently on the agenda, and it's being made during the council member comments and reports period, which is meant exactly for that, which is council member comments and reports. It's not a time for motions. Additionally, this is limited to 4 minutes, which doesn't allow for discussion period.
My understanding of Robert's Rules of Order is that one can make a motion at any point in a meeting. There is nothing in Rule 9 that says that one cannot make a motion. It just talks about items that might require a cost estimate or research from the city. This requires neither, sir. It's just
well, there's several issues with that. One, Robert's Rules of Order does not trump the council rules. The council rules control unless there's no language specific, and then Robert's rules would apply.
There is no language preventing one from making a motion. There just isn't. And rule number 9 specifically says that, precludes items that have a cost or require research. This is not, either of those things. It's simply saying any council member may attend an advisory meeting or basically be a guest at any city-sponsored meeting.
So Mayor, to confirm, did the mayor as the presiding officer rule that this motion is out of order?
I did rule this is out of order because it is not on our agenda. I don't know the circumstances. And neither does the rest of the council. Consequently, it's very difficult for the council to entertain this discussion. It seems very upfront with the initial motion, but without understanding the circumstances, it makes it very hard for a council to make a rationed decision.
Mayor, I have informed you of this in the past and the city manager. I have requested many times to be a guest at police advisory committee meetings and been denied. And regardless, this is a very simple thing that it's a social norm that I think all of us or most of us would have expected. If you want to simply listen in on a meeting, you would be allowed to. I don't even think we need a rule for it. Just common courtesy would dictate it. But apparently that does not suffice. So this motion.
I'd like to make a quick remark and just state that I know I have at least 5 different examples over the past year where Councilmember Buckshon and Councilmember Nutting have introduced motions during the councilmember comments, and then the motion has then been approved. This is discrimination to say that it's not allowed, and it's opening up yourself for lawsuits. Really, this is absolutely absurd to say that the motion wouldn't be allowed.
Well, just to clarify, essentially, to require a change to the council rules requires a resolution. So, Mr. Harris, do you have a resolution in hand?
I don't even think that I need a resolution. I think this is just something that we can all agree is going to be the city's policy. If you want it to be, to go down that road, great. I will contact you and we will work up that language.
So what you proposed tonight was an amendment to council rules, which requires a resolution and 2 readings of that resolution. Additionally, it would need to be on the council agenda, which requires compliance with Rule 9. So I can send you a copy of Rule 9, and that would be the starting point for preparing a resolution.
I'm looking at it right now, but you're saying that it seems to me that this is something that we can agree on without doing anything. It should just be, you know, formalistic. It should just be something that everyone says, yeah, you bet. If you want to attend an advisory meeting or any city-sponsored meeting, you should have the ability to do so. Whether we use that mechanism or not, you know.
I have a hand from Councilmember Banks and Councilmember Buxton.
Well, first of all, I think I would like to take a moment to say that we have an attorney who advises us, and whether your motion is or is not appropriate or at this particular point in time legal, I would prefer that we follow our city attorney's recommendation and move in that direction instead of arguing. So simply do whatever it is that he needs to have done. And then if it's 2 readings, it's 2 readings and we move forward. There's no sense in arguing. I don't get that.
Councilmember Buxton.
Well, like a lot of different kinds of conversation, there is quite a bit obviously under the surface here, which I am unaware of. So one option could be to dismiss to executive session and have a discussion over the table that's candid with each other, because I'm not sure what's going on here. So even if we had a discussion, I'm hearkening back to the mayor's comment that I don't have enough information to even have a conversation or to say anything intelligent here. A little frustrated about that. So I would say if we want to have this conversation, that we have an executive session, have it, and then either make a decision on whether somebody's going to come forward with a resolution, somebody's going to amend council rules, or we are going to make a decision that anybody is allowed or not allowed to some of these. And I think there needs to be some clarity about how we do make motions during a council meeting. So I'm not sure what to say right now, other than I can move to dismiss to executive session, and if I get a vote on that, we could do that. We need to have a conversation, in my opinion.
I welcome the conversation, but we're not in the situation to move to an executive session tonight.
Okay. All right.
Councilmember Martinelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, I've been told by the city attorney recently, I had a phone conversation, that essentially I'm not allowed to make any motion that's not related to the agenda. That's absolutely not how that our city functions or should function, or really any city functions. And again, it's really discrimination against the minority on the council, me and JC, because you have allowed motions to go forward by other council members. Again, I have multiple examples of Councilmember Buxton and Nutting putting forth motions that have nothing to do with the agenda. And there wasn't even the hint that it wasn't allowed. So it's being said now because you guys don't want me and JC to make motions, particularly in an election year, and particularly on motions that you don't want to vote against. So I think that that's absolutely absurd. Mayor, I think you should be ashamed of yourself that you're not allowing it. And I really hope that you guys reconsider this, because you're opening yourself up for a lawsuit.
I want examples, Anthony.
Absolutely. I will send over. There is a lot.
I have never made an emotion that has not been on an agenda, or changed the motion that was on agenda.
A letter to the governor and the motion moved forward. It had nothing to do with what was on the agenda. But again, that's fine. I will get examples and send those to the council.
And again, I will yield to our attorney, because we have made motions to remand to committee. That does not require action. When it comes to letters to the governor, that has been a request of the city manager. And again, that's not action. That is the approval of the body to send a letter, and that it represents the council. I yield to our attorney and to our city manager for further comment.
Well, I guess a couple things. Council member comments are limited to 4 minutes. So we're well past that, because we're debating a motion that was improperly made, to essentially a motion that was made for a resolution that's not on the agenda, that's not even been prepared. So again, if a council member wants an amendment to the council rules, that needs to be done by resolution, and that resolution needs to be on the agenda so that the public's aware of it, and we have a process for that.
Or we can just do the polite thing and all 7 of us just agree that we are going to make it a welcome place for any city-sponsored committee, okay? And it shan't be the case that any council member be denied the ability to act as a guest. We could just do that without any formalism.
Councilmember Harris, I don't know what the circumstances are. And so without knowing the circumstances, I'm telling you, I cannot take this to the body. We do not have the information. You are painting it in a particular light, a light that none of us have any awareness of. I don't know what happened there. I can't, and the fact is, when it comes to committee meetings, you do have the ability to attend, and you generally do. This was a meeting of the police advisory. It is the police chief's meeting.
I have been denied the ability to guest at the police advisory committee meetings 5 times now.
I have no idea, and I can say at this moment, does that conclude your report, sir? Because it isn't.
You bet. Sure.
The motion is out of order. Councilmember Buxton.
Okay. I attended the Public Issues Committee meeting, and that is a regional meeting, and one of the subjects that came up was countywide planning policies, which we received a great presentation on that at the last council meeting. And it caused me to appreciate our staff more. So I wanted to give a little shout out. Many cities are experiencing astronomical changes as a result of pressure from the GMA, the Growth Management Act. And that's what's putting, when you reducing growth in rural lands, putting pressure on cities to increase density in the cities, and putting targets out there for jobs and housing. And electeds all over this region are overwhelmed with the subject. But when I sat and listened to that, I was very thankful for our staff, how they're on the ball, they're planning ahead. They were able to give us this great plan of work that they have done already, looking forward to meeting these targets. And I felt so relieved that our council and our city is being well taken care of by the staff in regard to the Growth Management Act and our targets coming forward. So a shout out to, Susan and Denise. So thank you. And I also attended a South King Housing and Homelessness Partners meeting, and just a heads up that coming soon, there will be an ILA coming down the pike for pooling our 1406 funds. And that's we agreed to pool our funds together to help with affordable housing and homelessness as a group of cities in the South County. So that's going to be coming down the pike. Wow. Okay. Well, I also attended a networking meeting sponsored by the SCA, and Dow Constantine and Ed Prince, the SCA president, were our guest speakers. And I just had one of my favorite quotes from each of them. Dow said, "Having the ability to set aside differences and present a united front to the public is very important. Squabbling constantly creates suffering for our community. When we turn and talk to the public, it's important to learn to speak with one voice." And a quote from Ed Prince, we are in the people business and doing what we do for the betterment of the people in our region. As electeds, we need to figure out how we can stick together and be better in partnership." I also attended a fly-in, they're calling it, with Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, and it was hosted by the port to offer to, as regional electeds, to offer our priorities to our Congress people. They're hosting several of these. I just wanted to make one comment about her. She came prepared, informed, engaged in the moment and with us, and even in the middle of session. She's got a ton of things on her plate. I was very impressed with her and her engagement. I just feel like she's a fabulous advocate, and she was not just checking a box. So if you have something that she's in charge of, she seems like a great person to write to and engage with. I also attended the Domestic Violence Initiative Task Force, and Dan Satterberg, the King County prosecutor, gave some disconcerting sets of data. Just quickly, usually they have 300 to 400 trials per year, but they've only had 24 since March 2020. 1 year ago, there were just over 3,000 filed and ready, and today they have 6,500 trials ready to go. If we don't get back by July, there's going to be 8,000. This means that the DV office isn't able to forward cases, and it's a jury issue because of COVID. So all that to say, if we have thought as a community we wanted to advocate and support for DV issues, think about saying yes to jury duty, because that is going to, when it comes around, you can say, if I say yes to this, I might be helping somebody who's a victim of domestic violence. One last thank you is to one of my personal heroes. Today we gave a proclamation tonight in regard to Future City, and Sandy Gady, a teacher at Pacific Middle School, one of my personal heroes. Future City was in my living room for 6 weeks. My experience is this is a game changer for kids to have this experience, and it was for one of my kids. So congrats to all you young people that participated, and I'm so proud of you, and thank you, Sandy. And that concludes my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Buxton. Deputy Mayor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. For brevity, I attended quite a few meetings virtually. I'll leave it at that. I agree with Councilmember Buxton. The Future Cities presentation has always been one of my favorite parts. It's a bummer we can't be at the dais to see the presentation as we've always seen it before. It gives a great opportunity for these young individuals to show their worth and the hard work that they've done. It's a shame we can't acknowledge that in person. And the only thing I want to say is that there was some really good news tonight, and that was this marina piece. The fact that we're finally going forward, as I said before, which should have been 2 years ago, this is a major turning point in this city's future, and it shouldn't be underestimated or understated. And I want to thank Michael and staff for great work, particularly Andrew. You did some fabulous work to make this happen and find a way to get through the red tape and get this started on the process to get it done. We should be moving on to a different area, and unfortunately that's not the case. But the good news is we're getting there now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Mahoney. The marina is something that, well, it's been on my mind as long as I've been in council, and it is very exciting to hear that we are finally moving forward. So I have to echo that. I mean, when people talk about the potential of our marina, when your foundation is having problems, you've got to fix that foundation before you can do anything else. And that's what this does. I'd also like to note, okay, so I attended South King County Mayor's meeting. I'm only going to cover the highlights in the interest of time. And the main part of that particular discussion had to do with vaccinations and concerns. How do we get the information to the community and so forth. I was very pleased with the presentation we got from Shannon tonight. She did an excellent job, but you know, offering our marina parking lot and our senior center to help with those vaccinations as the vaccine becomes available is absolutely fantastic. I attended a Highline Forum. It was, as far as Highline Forums go, it was fairly routine. We elected a new co-chair. We updated the procedures, and I think one of the things that's worth mentioning is that the Highline Forum will now receive updates from START. And then, of course, there was the Econ committee of January 28th. And again, it was a work plan and looking at Vision 2050 and our growth targets. As I'd also like to note that we received an email from Comcast since our last meeting where they are announcing that they are increasing their speeds to for the Internet Essentials program up to 50 megabytes on the download. And what they're highlighting is they're increasing the speed of the Internet Essentials service for the 6th time in 10 years without a change to the price of $9.95 a month. And they're saying that's the same as it has been since 2011. There's more bandwidth for distance learning or remote work. The new speeds will roll out to customers statewide on March 1st and be added to their accounts automatically. The Essentials is open to any family receiving some form of government assistance, including a dozen different programs like free or reduced lunch, supplemental nutritional assistance, Medicaid, supplemental security income, veterans pensions or survivors benefits, and also the tribal programs. To learn more, please go to www.internetessentials.com. And that concludes my remark, and that takes us to the end of our meeting. Our next meeting will be February 18th, 2021. Is there a motion to adjourn? I see Councilmember Nutting.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Deputy Mayor Mahoney. All those in favor, raise your hand until I call your name. Okay, I see Councilmember Martinelli, Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Bangs, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Deputy Mayor Mahoney, and myself. With that,